Okay, here we go. We're going to clean this off the easy way. If you don't have an abrasive plaster, there's a lot of these. You can get a little counter top one, use glass beads that they're quite handy. You can get one of those for around $100. You just need an air compressor, and there's some really small tabletop ones too that are quite nice. If you don't have any way to do abrasive blasting, then you basically have a lot of handwork to do. A lot of you need to rig this up, dangle it in a cup of citric acid, brush it, come back, look at it. But to me, you know, I just cut right to the chase. Put this in here. We're going to try to see what we can see. This makes a little bit of noise because it runs on. I've got a vacuum system that runs on it. Turn this off so we can look in. Might need to get a stool to stand on. Can you see it in there, Barb?
No, I'm not tall enough to get up.
How about
there.
that?
There, now I can see it.
Now? This is once again glass beads. We'll clean all that grody stuff off. Can you see it?
Yes.
I just run clean the flange where it's going to, bits of the old seal. You can see the scale there, that white, that gray scale comes right off. And we'll see what this looks like. This way we can really get a look at this element. Get that last little bit off right there. Okay. Now, what we end up with now, as you see, no obvious ruptures or breaks. And this was the air compressors running in there, of course. Some of these are shielded in copper. This particular one seems to be shielded in stainless steel. Okay, so give it a good exam. Now, part of the rejuvenation process is that we just take this. This is my work oven over here in the powder coating area. But I'll take this and set it about 400. And the idea now is that if there is water inside of there causing the short that we saw, we want to drive the water out by kilning or putting it in an oven and heating it generally 4, 5, 6 hours. Overnight even, but I just throw it in, turn the oven on, and go away. You can't overcook it.
What temperature?
I got it about 400.
It's always good to know that in the recipe.
It's a pretty hot oven. Then, while we're in here, we're going to do another thing. Hold on, Mark. This is a real nice tool. This is used in machine shops. This particular substance, these are porcelain beads. And this is a tub of completely round, smooth porcelain beads. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to polish this. It saves an awful lot of handwork. We use this in a different process. But you'll see that, and this
will be loud.
This makes after about an hour of this beauty is going to really shine. And you aren't going to mind so much all of the weird soldering marks on it. It's just going to really be beautiful. But this is a side issue. Excuse me, I cut my finger on that last little deal. Okay. Now we're back at we're back to cleaning. We've done, basically that's the fun stuff. This is all more handwork. Is that if you've got tricks of the trade on these parts, fine steel wool, what we're going to do now is just we're going to really make these things nice and clean and acceptable. This is a Proxxon rotary tool, Dremel tool or whatever. What did I say Harbor Freight had rotary Dremels for? $8.99 or something?
Very inexpensive.
3,000 attachments or something like that. But
Do be careful using a rotary tool, though. You can do a lot of damage in a short amount
Yeah.
of time if you're not careful.
right, but it's a good shortcut. These little wire brushes, it really. So we'll just go through all of these parts. As you can see, there's a little bit of the chrome plating. These were originally chrome. Much of the chrome plating is gone. But you can really dress these things up nicely. But we'll put our finished ones over there. And all of these parts, you go from the citric acid pulls copper to the surface of brass, is what you see. It pulls a little bit of the elemental copper up, which is part of the reason why you don't necessarily, unless the machine needs to be rescaled or you're on some kind of, preventative scaling program, then you really want to do this on a
As needed
as needed
basis.
basis. It's one of those things, you see, because that copper is that's formulated into the brass, that's no longer going to be there. But it's just quite a nice treatment, because everything once you're done looks new. Let me get rid of that. There's the old O-ring. Now, that's the funny thing about something like this, is that you see this, that's silicone, not EPDM. And everything else on this machine was basically original seals, completely hammered, rock hard. But this particular one, this is a newer part, as they started using these green silicone seals later on. But so this indicates that there was a leak, that there was at least some level of service with this machine. So these are the ones that you really want to make sure you get the threads clean, because these are the sight glass nuts, and you want to make sure that those threads are clean. You saw how hard it was to get it out to begin with, and you want to prevent this from recurring once you install these pieces.
And you're just using a little soft wire brush
Yeah,
on the
it's
Dremel.
just a little stainless steel wire brush, and it just takes it off. This is the steam faucet retaining one there, and please bear with us. We're really. We want to do this rebuild in real time and not do a Julia Child and go run away and come back and say, look, it's done.
Oh, but Julia had so much fun.
She did have fun, but it's...
I suspect at times she had more fun than others.
Well, many times people ask us, they say, it says clean with wire brush. How in the world do I do that? Well, that's kind of how you do it. This part here requires a bit of a service technique on it, but we'll do that service when we're rebuilding all the parts. This is just the cleaning section. It's almost like if you've ever done a large restoration project. You get all of the cleaning done, all of the grunt work done, and then you get to kind of be masterful and enjoy yourself. You just basically keep on cleaning. Okay, those are those parts. These two parts here, they require it as well. I just got my and as you clean, you also inspect, make sure that there's nothing that's subpar, that there's no weaknesses in the parts, which is possibly why it's a little bit good to handle all these things. That way you can examine some of these don't hold up well, that they'll be plain steel instead of stainless steel, or they'll be brass. So what do we have left here? That's all these parts? Okay, now I have to deal with this. You're going to want to, now we're going to take the seals off of this, and which they just come off just like that. You get in behind the flat side, and you just use, on this side you just use the rod as a lever, and you pull them off. Okay, that's kind of an outstanding mess. You see here, there's gunk down in the seals. This is fairly clean actually for. I'll go get in here and we'll do the same thing with this.
Basically, you want to make sure those races are absolutely clean so you don't have any problem with the seal sitting back in.
Right. You want to get all the junk out of it. And a lot of times there'll be lubricant and coffee oil and all manner of stuff down in here, but you can get all the corners nice and square. Look it over. Some of these can actually degrade. I've seen instances where this top will have a big blob of scale on it, and the scale can eat the brass if it sits there long enough. And I've seen these with little edges that are eaten away. Now this is the old style piston, and by old style piston I mean, please notice it has no holes on the surface. There's that was funny stuff. Now, one other thing we do now. How's our time going?
13 and a half.
We want to check to make sure is tight, because that's one of the things that can happen, is that the rod can unscrew from the piston. And that is a set in there with Loctite, with a thread locker. So we want to make sure it's tight, and it's good and tight. All right? Okay. Now I've got my fine steel wool, and I go through here. Make sure everything's nice and clean. Of which it is. Okay, that I think is going to wrap up this one. We'll be back with a little bit more service, and we'll start the rebuild.